My name is Margaret O'Connor. I am 86 years old, and if you're younger than me right now, please read to the end, because I realized too late what could have saved my life from its greatest mistake. I live in a small house in New Jersey, not far from the ocean. In the mornings, I sit by the window and watch the Atlantic breathe, slowly, heavily, as if it too is tired. In moments like these, you understand especially clearly, time is not an endless road. It is a thin thread, and it breaks suddenly. I was born in 1940 in a working-class neighborhood of Newark. We lived modestly. My father unloaded ships at the port. My mother sewed dresses for wealthy women who never looked her in the eye. But we had something people seem to lack now. We were together. In the evenings, my father would sit at the table, tired, with cracked palms, and tell stories about ships that arrived from distant countries. I listened to him and believed the world was vast and kind. And then the world showed its other face. I was 12 when two men knocked on our door. I still remember their hats and the way my mother slowly lowered herself into a chair. My father died at the port, a snapped cable. That day I saw for the first time how an adult breaks. My mother did not cry beautifully. She wailed, and I stood beside her and felt something inside me turn cold forever. From that moment on, I decided I would never be weak again. I started working early, delivered newspapers, scrubbed floors, studied at night. I watched people laugh and couldn't understand how they managed it. At 18, I enrolled in nursing school. I thought that if I learned to save lives, I would stop being afraid of death. How wrong I was. The hospital in Jersey City became my home for 37 years. I held the hands of the dying. I heard last words. And do you know what I will tell you? Before death, people do not talk about their achievements. They say, I didn't hug my son enough. I worked too much. I never forgave my brother. I heard this hundreds of times, and every time I thought, that won't be me. But life is a master of irony. At 23, I met Michael, a firefighter, stubborn, with a loud laugh and a heart bigger than all of New Jersey. He taught me to laugh again. He would pull me into the kitchen and make me dance to the old radio. With him, for the first time, I felt not strong, but alive. We lived together for 42 years. A daughter was born, then a granddaughter. The house was full of sound, and then a call, a warehouse fire. The roof collapsed. I was 65 when I stood in the kitchen again, like my mother once had. Only this time, I was the one wailing. I always thought I was prepared for death, that I had seen enough of it. But when death takes a person who held your hand for 40 years, you're not prepared. The house became empty. The silence was louder than any scream. I stopped going out, stopped answering calls. I was angry at God, at the world, at Michael for leaving me. And this is where the reason I am telling you all this begins. One day my 5-year-old granddaughter brought me a drawing. In it were me and Grandpa. And around us, light. She said, Grandma, Grandpa is glowing inside you now. For the first time in a long while, I cried not from pain, but from understanding. All my life I was afraid of being weak. Even as a child, I felt that fear like a quiet shadow following me from room to room. After my father's death, that fear hardened into a rule. Strength meant not feeling, not crying, not asking for help, not letting anyone see where it hurt. I believed that if I built my walls high enough, grief would not find me again, and that is exactly what stole years from me. I was so afraid of losing that I did not allow myself to love fully. I loved carefully, measured, with restraint. I was so afraid of pain that I held back joy, as if joy itself were dangerous. I always kept something in reserve, a piece of my heart untouched, words unsaid, emotions unshown, as if life were a rehearsal, as if someday the real performance would begin, and then I would finally give myself permission to feel everything. But it is not a rehearsal. It is the only copy. There is no second draft where you correct the tone of your voice, where you say stay instead of go, where you choose courage instead of pride. After Michael's death, the walls I had built for decades no longer protected me. They only echoed. The house was too quiet. My strength suddenly felt like emptiness, and in that silence, I began volunteering at a hospice. At first, I told myself I was helping others, but the truth is, I was trying to understand something I had avoided all my life. I spoke with those who knew they had little time left. I sat beside their beds. I listened to their breathing in the dark. I held hands that had once held children, built homes, written letters, planted gardens. And I started asking them one question. What do you regret? It was never a question about money. Not one person said, I regret not earning more. Not one said, I regret not buying a bigger house. Not one whispered, I wish I had worked later. I wish I had worried more. They said, I was afraid to confess my love. I didn't make peace. I let pride win. I postponed happiness. I thought there would be more time. Some cried when they answered. Some stared at the ceiling. Some squeezed my hand as if trying to hold on to the seconds slipping away. But their regrets were almost always the same. Not what they achieved, but what they withheld. The most terrible thing in life is not death. The most terrible thing is to live life in waiting mode, waiting for a better moment, a better version of yourself, a better time, waiting until you're less busy, less tired, less afraid, waiting until you feel ready. It will not come. There will always be another responsibility, another insecurity, another reason to postpone what matters. Life does not suddenly clear its schedule so you can begin living. I'm 86. My body is weakening. I walk slowly. Sometimes I forget words in the middle of a sentence. I repeat stories. My hands tremble when I button my shirt. The mirror shows me a stranger with my eyes. But do you know what has become clearer than ever? Love is the only currency that never loses its value. Time takes strength. It takes beauty. It takes certainty. But love remains. Every kindness given, every embrace, every honest word, they do not disappear. They stay in the lives of others long after your voice grows quiet. Forgiveness is the only way to free yourself. Not because the other person deserves it. Sometimes they do not. But because carrying resentment is like carrying stones in your pockets while trying to swim. You do not drown because of the water. You drown because you refuse to let go of the weight. And vulnerability is not weakness. It is courage. It takes far more strength to say I'm hurt than to pretend you are fine. It takes more bravery to say I love you first, to admit I was wrong, to whisper I'm scared. Strength that hides is brittle. Strength that feels is alive. If I could return to my 20s, I would try less to appear strong and more to be real. I would sit longer at the dinner table. I would dance even if I looked foolish. I would say, I'm scared more often instead of masking it with silence. I would hug more. I would hold fewer grudges. I would not let days pass without telling people what they mean to me. I would not confuse distance with dignity, because at the end of life you understand. You do not control how much time you're given. You control only one thing, how deeply you live. Depth is not measured in achievements. It is measured in presence, in whether you were truly there when someone spoke, in whether you allowed yourself to feel joy without immediately fearing its loss, in whether you chose connection over ego. Now, when I look at the ocean, I am no longer afraid of the end. The horizon does not frighten me. The waves do not threaten me. I have made peace with the fact that everything that begins must also close. I am afraid of only one thing, that someone, after reading this, will once again say, "I still have time." You do not know if you do. Time is quiet. It does not announce its limits. It does not send reminders. It simply moves. Call the person you're thinking about. Send the message you have rewritten 10 times. Say what you've been postponing. Hold tighter. Stay a little longer. Forgive sooner. Laugh louder. Risk tenderness. Do not wait for tragedy to begin living. Do not wait for loss to teach you the value of presence. Do not wait until a hospital room to say what could have been said at a kitchen table. I am 86 years old, and if my life has taught me anything, it is this: do not hide your heart. Do not ration love as if it were scarce. Do not measure affection carefully like a limited resource. Spend it, give it, express it, and never live as if you have a spare life waiting in reserve. You don't. There's no backup copy, no untouched version, no later chapter where you finally become brave. There is only this one, this imperfect, fragile, breathtaking life. And it is happening now.